You ever hear the sound of handcuffs snapping shut on a person who always thought the rules never applied to her? It's not the clang you see in movies. It's this sharp, metallic stutter, cold enough to slice right through all the courtroom whispers and polite coughs. That's the sound I heard the day Karen Woolbridge, queen of HOA nightmares, self-declared empress of Broadwood Vista, finally had her wrists locked behind her back. She didn't even look at me as the deputies turned her around. Didn't have to. There was this sag in her shoulders, the last collapse of a woman who built her whole kingdom out of threats, paperwork, and a mean smile. And now, all that crumbled in a single afternoon. Funny thing is, I knew exactly when this war had started, back when she first tried to boot me off the cabin I grew up in, right on the edge of Lake Broadwood. Now, my place sits tucked behind a line of pine, where the water glimmers just right if you catch the sunrise, and every board on that porch has soaked up years of black coffee and muddy boots. My grandfather picked out that spot long before Broadwood Vista or the HOA even existed. See, the line's real simple on paper. Their jurisdiction ends way before my shoreline. But Karen? Well, folks like her never let a thing like facts slow them down. She ran the HOA like it was her own private fiefdom. Smile plastered on too tight, rules stretched like old elastic, power trip you could smell from a mile off. I should have known something was up that morning. Heard gravel crunching before I even saw the white SUV. Property Watch stamped on the side in bold, blue letters like a knockoff cop car from some suburban fever dream. And out she came. Hair helmet stiff, stride stiff as Sunday church, eyes dead set on my porch. Didn't even say hello, just stomped up and jammed a tablet right in my face. "This cabin is sitting on communal recreation land," she announced, like she was reading my sentence. "You're occupying HOA property without authorization." Now, I'd love to say I was polite, but I just took a slow sip of my coffee, let the steam float up between us, and said, "That's interesting, because this land's been in my family since '69. Want to see the deed?" I swear, she snorted like being wrong was hazardous to her health. "Our records supersede personal claims," she said. "You have until sundown to vacate." Then she was gone, promising to bring law enforcement next time. And by God, 20 minutes later she showed up again, riding shotgun in a sheriff's SUV, acting like she'd summoned the cavalry. The sheriff took one look at my folder, original deed, county maps, even my granddad's scribbled notes, and says real calm, "Ma'am, this is his property." Karen's face barely twitched, but I saw it, brittle as week old bread. "This isn't over," she hissed at me, stabbing her finger like she could poke holes in my day. I just raised my coffee and watched her SUV taillights bounce down the driveway. You don't threaten a man on his own porch and walk away grinning. Not around here. You'd think that'd be the end of it. But the next morning, the lake was too still, like the world was holding its breath. That's when I heard the growl of engines. I walked out to find a backhoe, a flatbed, and a handful of workers dumping steel piles onto my land like they were building the Great Wall of HOA. Already half a trench was carved up, and a big, crooked sign in my dirt read, "Coming soon. Private lakefront pier for HOA members only." The foreman just shrugged when I confronted him. HOA says it's their shoreline. I'm just following orders. I told him straight. They lied to you. Pack it up. He didn't argue, just started rounding up his crew. Meanwhile, I filmed every shovelful, every dent in the dirt, every scratch left by their machinery. Not an hour later, my phone buzzed. Email from the state environmental agency. Apparently, I was being investigated for illegal sewage leaks into the lake. You ever laugh because the only other option is to scream? That was me. Karen wasn't just trying to boot me off my own land. She wanted to salt the earth behind me. Inspectors came out, checked every pipe and drainage line my granddad ever touched, soil, water, the whole 9 yards. Their verdict? Fully compliant. But before he left, the younger inspector leaned in close and whispered, "Someone's trying to freeze your land till they can push a zoning change." But it's the HOA. I didn't have to say a word. By noon, the sheriff came back, shut down the construction, and by 2 o'clock my lawyer Martin called with news. We found a new shoreline map, filed last year. Your cabin's not even on it. Turns out, Karen had forged a map, merge my property with HOA land, and use the signature of a civil engineer who'd already lost his license for fraud. Whole thing was sloppy. Wrong fonts, mismatched stamps, even the GPS coordinates were off, like she tried to drag and drop my whole life off the map. That afternoon, County Investigator Paul Bingham, sharp guy, sharp suit, showed up on my porch. I handed him the forged documents. He scanned them, didn't even hide his disgust. "Whoever did this," he muttered, "should have spent less time faking maps and more time learning county law." He took copies, told me off the record, "People who mess with boundary lines always go down hard." But here's the twist I never saw coming. One of Karen's own, Jeremy Parks, board member, always looked like he'd taken a wrong turn at a PDA meeting, texted me from a blocked number. "We need to talk. Privately." So I met him up the North Trail at this old, sagging picnic shelter nobody uses anymore. Jeremy's hands were shaking. He spilled everything. Karen had hired the unlicensed engineer, paid him cash, bullied anyone on the board who raised questions. "I want her gone," he whispered. "But if this pier goes through, we're all liable. I need the evidence." I gave him the folder. He looked like I'd handed him a live grenade. Did Karen quit? Not a chance. That night, the HOA released a glitzy PR video, painted me as some squatter blocking public access. They had neighbors I'd never even seen on camera, calling me dangerous, territorial, selfish. Karen herself blinked back tears with a piano soundtrack rolling under her voice, strolling along the lake like she was Lady Liberty. Yeah, that happened. She knew how perception works. Get enough folks to believe a lie. It'll feel like the truth. But I know how the internet works. I hired a local drone operator, Calvin, mirrored shades, quick on the jokes, and we set up a full 360-degree surveillance perimeter. Filmed everything. Then I dumped it all online. Deed scans, drone footage, GPS logs, construction crews, timestamps, the works. Headline: HOA President forges map to steal property. It took off. By sunrise, it was all over Reddit and local news. Next thing I know, WMLT 7's knocking. Talia Cortez, the kind of reporter who can see a lie coming a mile away, shows up at my porch. I handed her my grandfather's original map, yellowed and soft around the edges. She studied it and just said, "This is going to change everything." And it did. 2 nights later, her expose aired, Lakefront Lies. They spliced Karen's PR video next to my drone footage, frame by frame. Public opinion flipped so fast it nearly gave me whiplash. Right after, Jeremy texted, "We have the votes. HOA board meeting tomorrow. Be there." The place was packed, folding chairs scraping, people buzzing, the old town hall stinking of dust and coffee. Karen sat dead center, pale but still clutching her binder like a scepter. She opened with a speech about unity and transparency, said the word integrity like it was a curse. Jeremy stood up, voice steadier than I'd ever heard it, motioned for a vote of no confidence. Karen tried to shut him down. Paula, another board member, tired of it all, stood up. "We've seen the evidence. We're done." Jeremy nodded to me. I stood up, pulled out a little Bluetooth speaker from my jacket, and hit play. My grandfather's voice, rough, deep, clear as day, filled the room, talking about how he bought the whole shoreline from a broke city council back in '69. Kept it for family. HOA won't touch it. Not unless they rewrite the Constitution. You could feel the silence, suck the air right out of the room. Karen slammed her binder shut. "That's not admissible," but Jeremy cut her off. "It's not court. It's proof." The vote came quick, 6-1. Just like that, Karen lost her crown. She stormed out, muttering about lawsuits and conspiracies, but her little empire was already tumbling. The county pressed charges. DA picked up the case. 3 weeks later, I stood in that courthouse hallway, heard those cuffs close around her wrists, and watched the story in the only way it ever could. I didn't hang around for the TV cameras. Didn't celebrate. I just walked out, let the cold lake wind hit my face, and drove back home. Porch light glowing, lake calm, trees whispering like always. The land remembers who owns it, and sooner or later, folks like Karen have to face that truth. I set my coffee mug on the railing, listened to the gentle slap of water on the rocks, and breathed in a quiet I'd fought hard to win. Not all battles are fists and fury. Some are waged with paperwork, patience, and a stubborn belief that facts still outrank fear. Here in Broadwood Vista, where one woman thought she could redraw reality with enough signatures, it turned out there was only ever one ending. In the hush under the pines, with moonlight sliding across my porch, I told myself, and anyone who ever gets pushed too far, that sometimes you just have to hold your ground. So let me ask you, do you think justice is about who shouts the loudest or who's got the facts to back it up? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own story, or just tell me what you'd have done different. Because out here, sooner or later, truth always finds its way home.